Thanks for watching our videos. If you're listening to just the audio, head over to our website. We have the latest videos up every time. The one you're looking for is not there. Just head over to our YouTube page. That's where it'll be at. Don't forget, sign up for our newsletter. You get 10% off. You get exclusive weekly content and first chance at giveaways. And sometimes we might just give away stuff for free. Don't forget to follow us on social media for some good times too. Hope you enjoy.
Everybody.
Live with love.
Just hanging out today, chilling. My Galaxy, or well, technically my Jupiter leggings. So, I'm gonna follow up to last week's video. Talked about some tips on some points to keep in mind when choosing a gym. This week we're gonna talk about choosing a trainer, a coach, essentially. It's gonna be pretty important if you're looking into it, considering it is usually, it's a bit of a financial investment, but for a lot of people it is something that's really worth it, depending on their background or their goals. If you're either pretty much no experience in something, you usually want a coach, or if you have more experience in a very specific realm, you'll probably want a coach. It's just you need another perspective, or you just need somebody who knows something to kind of get you along, depending on which end of that spectrum you're at. So this way we're going to talk about it. So again, it starts with the evaluation process, and it starts with the same kind of questions of, what's your goal? What do you want to do? What interests you? So when you know kind of what you want to do, helps you not only pick a gym, but also helps you kind of find a trainer as well, because you want somebody who lines up with your interests and your goals. Okay. Once you figure out what you want, then it's finding someone who fits that. So the first part of looking at a trainer would be, what's their experience, or what's their professional education, essentially. So, what kind of certifications do they have? What experience do they have? What realms have they worked in? How many clients have they have? How many years have they been in the personal training industry? Those are things to be asked about them. To keep in mind, too, when it comes to what is someone's education. Any professional certifications that they tend to have don't require any secondary education. Like, you don't have to go from high school to college, get a college degree to become a trainer. There are programs that will run people through such a thing, but it's not usually specific to a 4-year degree. But just so, like ACSM, you don't even have to take the courses technically. You can just take the test. That's what I did for my certification. The only reason I did that, though, was after I graduated with my bachelor's, which was in wellness, health promotion, injury prevention with a focus on exercise science. So I have a degree that related to it, so it was all stuff that I had learned. Otherwise, if I went, because basically if they have just a high school diploma, they can take the courses and then take the exam. Obviously, if someone has enough experience and knew enough, they could take the exam without taking the classes and still pass. So that's always part of it. But, understand that you don't need that secondary education for, the certification, but that doesn't mean all or most trainers have no idea what they're talking about. Okay, it's just something to understand, like, okay, they have the certification. Most of the time that's to just be able to legally do it. So just understand that. Usually if you're looking at one, like ACSM and ACE are two better known, but really the top two are ACSM, which is American College of Sports Medicine, or the NASM, National Association of Strength and Conditioning, NASCM. God, I don't remember. I'll have to look that one up. So those are ones to keep in mind. But still, just keep an open mind with that. So look at their education, essentially, but then also their experience, because experience is going to teach you a lot more. So say somebody who's been in the industry only, obviously for a long time, they've got a lot of experience with athletes. But if you're looking at someone who, I want to do, like especially like a boot camp style, some high intensity stuff. Like if I'm trying to, you know, somebody wants a trainer for a half marathon, it's going to go somebody who's running background, like I had with my clients. Other ones, like another trainer I worked with, he was more like boot camp, weight loss focused, and did really well with his clients on the boot camp style. Other trainers are really good with like bodybuilding or strength training. Obviously, like if I want a trainer for strongman, I want somebody who's experienced in strongman, who has coached people in strongman. So there's experience. You kind of want someone who has experience in what interests you or what your goals kind of are. Obviously, if you go to a trainer and you go to someone who specializes, quotations of specialized, because if someone specializes or their specific points of training go beyond 2 or 3, they're just bullshitting at that point. Like, you want somebody who has a niche, essentially. You want a niche that lines up with yours, because that means they're going to be focusing their energy in that niche, and they're going to know a lot more about that niche. So, buddy. So keep that in mind. Excuse my notes. Okay. Then your next step is to have some options. Same thing with a gym, where you kind of looked what's around you. With those gyms, then look at the personnel that they offer there. And read their bios. I mean, if they put a bio and something kind of sparks, like, okay, like I think I could get along with this person. View it like an online dating thing. Like, all right, like let's see if I can have a conversation with this person. Okay? So have a few options. That way you're not like, oh, well, I didn't like this person, or this is the only one. Try and get some options. Obviously, if you're more specialized, like strongman or powerlifting or Olympic lifting, is going to be a little more limited. But it's still like, take a look and maybe expand your radius a little bit, just to give yourself a couple options. And then the next step with that is to have a conversation in some way. Doesn't have to be like, oh, sit down face to face. If you can sit down face to face, that's the best, obviously, because you can get a better feel for it. If not, try and have a phone conversation, or try and reach out via email. Something to try and kind of have some sort of interaction and see, do they have kind of, an own voice if you're doing it via the telephone or email, like, are they being genuine? And use your gut. Like, same thing when you meet somebody new, like, do I want to be friends with this person? With a trainer, you kind of want to be almost friends with them. Like, you want to have a relationship that's established, but they're there to push you and they're to give you direction. So it's kind of like a teacher you had potentially at some point, where they were really good at guiding you, but obviously you're not going to hang out with them, have beers, and party with them. Like, different kind of friend level. It's more of just a nice, good relationship with them. So you want to have that professional relationship, but it's easy enough that you can have a conversation with. You get along with them, you have fun, you don't dread going to see them, or you're like, why do I pay this person? So it's not just about, all of the information that they know, because you can get the person who knows the most information, which still has a lot to learn. But even if somebody knew everything, okay, if I can't deal with them on a day-to-day basis, I don't want to go to them. I'd rather go to somebody who knows, a bit, but I get along with better, because then we can learn together potentially. But it's something that I want to be able to go to. It's the same thing when you go to a gym. You want an atmosphere that works for you, because you want it to be something that is inviting, that you want to go to. If you're paying someone money, you want to be able to deal with them. So keep that in mind. Key part, when you do have a conversation with them, before you have the conversation, take a piece of paper and write down any questions you may have. Do this a couple of days ahead of time. That way, if you have a question, jot it down on your phone. I was going to grab my phone, but I don't have it near me. Write a note with any questions that you have. When I have thoughts in my head, if I don't have a chance to write them down, I will type them in my phone. Otherwise, I forget them. And you may think like, oh, I have these questions. Like, that's fine. I'll have this conversation. Have them with you, because you'll forget. It's the same thing when people go to the doctor's office. We had that issue all the time with people. Is they would, and I do it too when I go to the doctor's. Is like, oh, I want to ask these questions. And I get there and I'm like, Do you have any questions? No, I think I'm good. And then you leave, and 5 minutes later, you're on your way home, and you're like, oh, crap, I didn't ask this or that. So just have them written down. Even when I was doing personal training, it was, I mean, if someone had questions, I loved answering questions. So that's something to keep in mind as well, is how the conversation goes with somebody is, especially if you have a question, especially regarding like, hey, this is what I want to do, like, well, how would you kind of set up a plan? Obviously, they don't have to give you all the details and how things would be set up because that would just be giving away their job. But like they should kind of tell you some basics of that, like how you would want to structure it. Like if I have somebody who is having issues, like older populations, a couple people that I dealt with, it's standing up from a chair. Like, okay, we would work squats and like try and get you stronger just from this position, and we could work our way through that. So they understand, like, all right, we have a plan to address this, and like he knows, like, we want to break it down, but it's not like, oh, we're gonna do this, 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 this. Like I gave you a 6-week plan, like, cool, thank you, bye, walk out, and they're gonna do exactly that. Wouldn't make my job very smart, but it should be something like, can I address your issues, or like, can we have a conversation, and can we actually talk about this, instead of like, oh, how would this kind of go? And I'm like, well. When they try and sell you a package, like if they go right to the sale every single time, then it's somebody who's mostly focused on their numbers, and some places do push their numbers really hard, which usually isn't going to be a relationship you want to establish. So keep that in mind in particular. If someone constantly feels like they're trying to sell you, they're probably trying to sell you. If someone tries to kind of sell you a couple times, understand that's their job. Their job is to sell themselves to you. So that's going to happen. They're going to try and kind of sell themselves. But if it feels like someone just keeps looping anything you say or ask about to a sale, they're not listening to you. They're listening to answer. They're not listening to, they're listening to reply, not to answer, essentially, as people like to say. What else did I have? That's the biggest thing. Mostly just think about it as interviewing somebody either you would want to like work for you, because essentially that's what they're going to do. So on that professional level, but then also on a personality level, like could you get along with them? I mean, because you're probably going to spend at least 45 minutes to an hour. Most people don't usually do too many half-hour sessions, just it's not the best. I mean, usually you want an hour session. We're going to spend 45 minutes to an hour with them at least 2 days a week, probably. And you're going to spend a decent amount of money. I mean, you kind of usually get what you pay for. That's why group classes are cheaper, because there's more people and it's less one-on-one. When it's one-on-one, you pay a little bit more because you get all of their attention. And then, my biggest one probably would be is if you ask them kind of how things are set up. Doesn't really matter what your goals are. People should focus on, I mean, there should be some sort of emphasis on your exercise regimen, but then also healthy eating, because your eating habits are the biggest majority of any sort of fitness results you want to get, whether that's weight loss, mass gain, recovery. It's all going to be based on your food. Your training is very little of it, especially because that's, if it's an hour a day, it's about 4% of your day. It's not a lot of time. So your food is more important. So if they, don't make too much emphasis on the food, or at least have some suggestions on, I mean, obviously they're not nutritionists, they're not dietitians, they're not going to be able to know it all, but they should have a basic understanding of nutrition and be able to help you fix that. Or like in my case, I was never the strongest, so I would either default to someone who knew more, or I would point them in the direction of like, here, let's start with this, and we can get you the basics, and as we fine-tune things, we may move to a program that I found helpful for, myself or anything else, which is like the Eat to Perform and the RP, the Renaissance Periodization diet, like things like that work for people that have a lot of research behind it. So if someone thinks they know it all, that's also a warning sign, because no one knows it all. So if they can't admit, like, hey, maybe I don't know all this, like, let's ask, this trainer, he knows a little bit more about this realm, and, basically not brainstorm, brain trust. That was what I was looking for. So look for somebody who is just genuine. You like. It's kind of a personal interview, so keep that in mind. It's not all just like a gym where it's like, is it clean? Is it this? Is it that? I mean, obviously, you want somebody who looks fairly clean. I mean, just presentable. I mean, even if they have like tattoos or so forth, I mean, obviously that's not as big of a deal now in a professional setting as it used to be. Obviously, I mean, if someone's like scruffy, doesn't like, smells, doesn't take care of themselves, you're like, nah, if you don't take care of yourselves, how are you supposed to help me, right? Like, obviously, if I had a trainer who was 500 pounds, I'm not gonna hire a trainer who's 500 pounds because, I mean, you have to present yourself. I don't expect you to want everyone, all trainers to be, the ones like one I worked with who could naturally sit at like 8% body fat, was super strong, like built, just good looking guy. Like, no. Another guy I worked with, he and I mean, we were more like your regular guys. Like, we were in pretty good shape, but we were totally nowhere near as like ripped and buff as he was. And I don't expect that out of all trainers. No. But obviously, if someone is unhealthy or appears unhealthy and you're in the health and fitness industry, that doesn't put you in a good spot. So obviously you want somebody who presents themselves as someone who follows their own advice, essentially. I think that's the last I got on that. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. Someone's probably going to bitch about me saying don't hire a fat trainer. I don't want to even read your comments. Let me know. You can reach me, just email us at Team Treign at trainathletics.com. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Team Treign, Twitter, Treign Athletics. We kind of do some fun stuff. We're about to launch a couple new designs. We might do a couple pre-orders so you only get them at limited time. Sign up for a newsletter. Save 10% on the store, guys. Go ahead, check us out. Get a sweet t-shirt like my protein pancakes. I can't even talk anymore. And as always, live, lift, love. Take care. Enjoy the miles.